Welcome, everyone, back to another edition of the Broker to Broker podcast. My name is Mark Summers. I'm the president of AIM. Honored, blessed to be the host of season 2 here. We've already hopped into a couple of them this year. And listen, I'm learning a ton from these. These things are going great. It enhances even more why I tell people to get into these podcasts because, one thing I've always said is there's a million right ways to do this business. I used to say 1,000, but I really think it's a million right ways to do this business now. You can tailor it to yourself, and who else better than to talk about what he does. So today I am with the broker owner of the Soka Lending Group. I have the broker owner here, Mike Soka. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Excited to be here.
Good deal. Good deal. So no, we're gonna hop right into it. I've heard a lot of great things about you. Now it's gonna be our goal to get it out to all of our members. I know you're doing great things. So you know what? One of my most favorite things about this is not only learning about how so many people do the business differently, or how they kind of market, or what their culture is, whatever the case may be. I love hearing about how people got started into this industry, because I am pretty sure when I grew up, I didn't even really know what a mortgage was. But then number two, I don't remember any of my friends talking to me about becoming a mortgage broker or loan originator. So give me a little background. Tell me how you got into the business, and you just go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, by the way, Mark. So I started right out of college in the bank. So I worked for Citibank retail for a very long time. And I was not doing mortgages at first. So I started out as a personal banker, and I was working in Washington, D.C. I actually was working for Citibank while I was going to graduate school. I was going to graduate school at night. And I was in a branch, and there was this woman, and her name was Ms. Judy Harwood. And
Okay.
She was possibly the most fabulous, most eccentric, most happy person that I've ever met in my life. And so after a couple of weeks of getting to know her, I said, Miss Judy, I love you. I'm obsessed with you. How do I be you one day? And she was the mortgage loan originator at that branch. And so she said, oh, honey, why don't you just come sit with me? And why don't I teach you some things? And I said, okay, Miss Judy. So we did literally every single day for about 6 months. I sat with Miss Judy for at least an hour a day. I sat with her during her clients, and she taught me everything that she knew. She actually ended up retiring after about a year of being together. And I took her spot at the branch in retail. And okay. I was at that branch for a very long time. I did a lot of loans for a lot of people. It was a great learning experience. And then from there, I did really well. They promoted me into management. I oversaw a lot of loan officers, taught them how to be better loan officers. A lot of what I did was through education, especially product knowledge, etc. They moved me over to the state of Virginia. I oversaw the state of Virginia for Citibank for operations for a little bit. And then they asked me to help them with a new program that they were bringing over from Asia called Citi Gold. Basically what that was kind of a conglomeration between investments and mortgage and business banking. So it was a very niche kind of program. It did very, very well in Asia. They asked me to bring it over and help tailor that for the United States audience.
Oh, wow. That's pretty big.
Yeah, it was very cool. We ran the initial pilot, which was about 32 branches, East Coast and West Coast. And one thing that I found along the way, and granted this was early 2000s, mid 2000s when this was going on, was that their tech was bad. Just generally, it was just bad. So I told them, your tech needs to be improved. And so basically what I expected them to say was, let's hire a company and do that. Instead, what they said was, here's a bucket of money and some people, please make it what you want. So wow. that was fun, because I wasn't really like a tech person. But we put it together in about a year. They are still actually using the platform that we kind of rudimentarily put together. Of course, they improved it and rolled from there. I actually got a call on my cell phone, probably about a year or so after we actually launched that, from a guy that I worked with at Citi who had moved over to Nation Star, which is now called Mr. Cooper.
Yep.
And basically they were having some tech issues, et cetera, and needed somebody that was a mortgage SME to come in, help them. So they were using what's now Accenture Mortgage Cadence as their retail platform. So I got a random call on my cell phone saying, "Hi, you don't know who I am, but would you like to come work for us?" So I left Citi. I started working for Accenture Mortgage Cadence. I worked with a number of retail banks on making their process a little bit more efficient, and then also a lot of efficiency through tech. From there, how I kind of got introduced into the broker world was a company that worked with actually AIM to build Arrive, which is I think a lot of you guys know, is a LOS/POS system that a lot of brokers are starting to use now. I moved over to one of the companies that was actually helping AIM to build the original, so not the one that's there now, Arrive Next, but the original Arrive. So I worked on that program. As I was working on that program, I actually remember there was a conference in Fort Lauderdale where they kind of announced it and went over it. And Katie and Joe Scali, they got up there and they went over it. And that was my first real introduction to broker world. Everybody was so happy and so excited, and it just felt like this great big family that I said to myself, I need to get in on the party. So I literally I came home from that conference just jazzed and excited to be a part of this world. I got my licenses because with the bank, I didn't need to be licensed, right? So I got my licenses. I joined a brokerage that was not mine for a little bit of time. And then I talked to my husband, and my husband has a very strong compliance, auditing, et cetera, background. And we just decided, let's go for it. I have kind of the experience. I've managed people. I had a little bit of time to be able to see the difference between retail and broker. And then I worked with a lot of brokers to kind of help to put Arrive together. So that being said, the Soka Lending Group was born. We haven't been around that long. It was actually about a year ago. January 2020 is when we officially launched. We've done really, really big things, I think, in just 1 year. And now we're 4 people big. We're about to be 5 people big. And so we're growing. We've gotten a lot of great feedback, and we'll kind of talk through here, I know, in just a little bit about some of the techniques that we've used. We're licensed in 7 states. So we're doing great. I've never been happier in my whole life, and I'm so excited to be a part of this community.
You know, that's awesome. I never knew that. I never knew that because of I remember that Fort Lauderdale AIM event. I loved it. I had fun. But no, I remember exactly what segment you're talking about with Katie and Joe up there explaining it. I remember a lot of people's mouths dropping during that, going, "You're kidding me. This thing's going to do all of this for us. And this is what you've done so far." I mean, it was, I specifically remember that. That's great. But you're based out of Colorado, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So we're in Denver, Colorado. We have a branch in Houston, Texas. We're licensed in 7 states, including right now, Oregon, California, Virginia, DC, Florida, Texas, Colorado.
That's great. That's great. And I love to hear these feel good stories, just for the mere fact of you were on the dark side at one time, as I like to call it. You're on the dark side, and one of AIM's missions, and arguably one of its biggest missions, is to create a community that also helps us gain more market share. And obviously, with you joining, the broker side, we're doing it.
You did it for sure. You got me.
That's great. That's great. So no, I love hearing people's background, because just like I said, you just don't really get to hear about it too much. It's just, I see so many successful people. And what I'm trying to do in this, and a little background of what I'm trying to do here, is I'm just trying to see, like, where does everyone come from? And the more and more I speak to people, it's There's no real one
Right.
path. It's all over the map. So that's great. Okay. So marketing, kind of a big thing here, especially with, you're somewhat of a newer broker, as you said here. You're about a year and some into it. Marketing. How did you know how to attack marketing, or did you have a passion for what type of marketing do you do? I mean, because you have to have the right personality to do it. You just can't say, I'm going to go market and not have a certain personality to do it.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to bring in a little bit of some of the techniques that I've used in the past, as well as this, just because I think that they're super relevant for your question. So I think marketing, the number one thing that I would say to anybody with marketing is don't do anything that you don't feel comfortable doing. And I think a lot of people think, oh, if I just buy these leads, or, oh, I don't have a lot of friends on Facebook, or, oh, if I just take the UWM pre-canned stuff and just put it on LinkedIn, that I've done enough, right? So I just wanted to say that don't do anything you don't feel necessarily comfortable doing. So my husband and I are obviously part of the LGBTQ community. I personally have a lot of connections and Facebook friends that are part of this community as well. So a lot of our kind of just general marketing is really catered to the niche. I'll go into some other things, some other examples for some other brokers that work for us with us on what marketing techniques that they've been able to use that have also been successful. So I would say if you don't feel comfortable doing videos, don't do videos. I think if you feel comfortable in front of the camera, go for it, right? So I know that AIM has actually sponsored a number of sessions about like certain things to do, not to do with videos. I found especially a lot of people don't actually listen to the video, but they'll just stare at it. And so if you put the words, literally, like if you just put the words at the bottom of the video as to what you say, they're going to read it. But if they're not going to, they're just going to kind of watch your face if you don't actually like put the things at the bottom. So I'd say number one is make sure you put that at the bottom. We have joined a lot of Facebook groups within our niche, and I really think that that's very important. And I'll give you some examples. Within my niche, there are a lot of real estate groups that cater to the LGBT community. They are direct to realtors. So, for instance, I'm a part of, there's one called Real Pride. It's nationwide. There's another one called NAGLREP. It's a tough name to say, but it stands for the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals. And so we're a part of these Facebook groups. So I would say, to look for groups that already are established and really already exist, join them and just literally introduce yourself and try to make your introduction like fun, make it tailored to your personality and your style, and make sure that you list what states that you cover. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of people from a lot of states that you might not necessarily be able to do if you're not licensed in them. And then I would say just make sure that you add content. So you don't have to come up with original content always, but if somebody posts on something and you're just kind of watching out for it, comment. Like, make sure that you comment. Keep it very positive. I think that people want to work with people that are happy, people that have a good outlook, a really positive outlook. And so I don't really state anything, even though you might think it. I don't really state anything negative on any of these things. Facebook, I try not to get into any type of back and forth on Facebook, just kind of factual, fun type things. A lot of things then go kind of off onto Messenger. So I just literally see somebody that I think might have the question, instead of just putting it on the actual group comment, I literally like double click on their name and send them a messenger. And then within the actual comment, I say, just sent you private message, because otherwise they might not check their quote unquote other Facebook message. And that's been very, very successful for me to just be able to reach out for people that I don't know. And I also look to make sure that they are kind of in the states where I am licensed, so it might be a good fit. And I've met a lot of realtors through just Facebook Messenger off of these groups that I've literally never met in person, and they've just started sending us referrals.
Really? So you've never met these people before, and
correct.
they're saying that's amazing.
In multiple states.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that that's been just really big for us, and it's just not being afraid to literally double click their name and just introduce yourself to the side on Messenger. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's been working for us.
Yeah, who cares? I mean, at that time, sometimes simple is the way to go on all
Yeah,
this. And sometimes we're not willing to put ourselves out there. But that Facebook feel, when people can go check your profile per se and kind of
hmm
get a feel for what you are, kind of puts down that barrier.
yeah. So a couple more things to bring up. Number one is what you just said, right? Like we have Soka Lending Group has a Facebook page, and we have reviews on the Facebook page. I post when a realtor posts something great about us or a closing, or when somebody writes us something. Like I post on the actual business page to try to keep it up and a little bit fresh. And so that way, because everything is so kind of Facebook connected, they are probably going to look at you on Facebook. So as long as they see that you're like real and not some facade, then they're going to feel a lot more comfortable with you to be able to have a chat with you kind of on the side. So that's number one. Mark, I did want to touch on something else that I brought up. So
It's your
one of my
floor.
other
It's your floor. Go ahead.
so one of my other LOs, who's doing a great job. He's actually a newer LO, new to business. He has just a different niche. And so when we kind of talk through like, what do you want to do? How are you going to get business? How are you going to make yourself successful? He does what's called, in his own personal life, he does what's called room by room renting. So basically he has like an investment property, and instead of renting out the entire house, he rents it out by the room, normally to military. And so basically he started a Facebook group from scratch. He has 100 and something friends, that's it, on Facebook. So it's not like he has um this huge following. He just started a Facebook group about other people doing room by room type rentals. And then from there, he was able to find people that did it. People invited other people, etc. And very proud of him. But within a couple months, he had almost 1,000 members in something,
Wow.
because this was something that like was just a topic that he liked, and he was adding content, etc. So now what he and I are working on together, but he's doing a lot of, is okay, well, what really appeals to this group? Well, it's investment, right? Like it's investment. How do you get more? So that's the type of content that now he is working on within his own group that he invented himself, to be able to spur business on something that he actually just likes to do, just every day. Before he was even a broker, he just likes this is just something that he likes to do. So I would really encourage people to join Facebook groups that about things they like. It doesn't even have to be mortgage specific, right? Just things that they like. There's going to be stuff in there. Add content to it. We are actually hosting our own little virtual happy hour within the NAGA Rep Facebook group. And we're going to be presenting also some of our products, right? And I know we're going to talk about products here in a little bit, but we do offer things like non-QM, things that realtors might not know about. So we're going to do a little presentation that's very educational, so that we can make sure that they get value out of the happy hour. And then we're literally just going to sit there and drink margaritas on screen.
That's perfect. There's nothing wrong with that.
I am fine with that. Yeah.
So, okay, I got a question for you here.
Sure.
And, because I can see, a lot of people, I'm not trying to say people are unintelligent or whatever, but there is a big difference of, okay, you join a group, okay? You want to get your content out there. You want to, contribute. How do you kind of break down that barrier where you start to let people know with what you do? I mean, you just can't join a group and say, I do mortgages. Does anyone need a mortgage?
No, absolutely not. So I would say you can't immediately jump right in, right? Like you have to become a seasoned member of the group. So just comment, just normal stuff. It doesn't have to be about mortgage. Like it depends on what type of group it is, right? Just add some sort of value, even if it's just saying attaboy or good job or something like that, to where they start to see you as a group member. I think then at some point you're going to see an end. Like it just will present itself. I know that sounds nebulous, but I really think it will, right? So I think that you can just kind of put it in a comment somewhere. Don't make the full post, but in somebody else's comment on their post, just kind of put it in there so that you're able to just kind of gently ease into it. And then once you become, I would say, a more known member within the group, that's when it's time to just kind of burst in there and do something, whether it's a virtual happy hour to where you invite them to, or whether you've messaged enough people kind of to the side yourself, or one of those things. That's when you can really start to kind of put it on there and add your own content. But you're right. Don't burst on there and be like, yo, look at me. Too much. Too much.
Exactly. Yeah. And it sounds dumb, but I just don't want people doing that. And, a lot of these groups, what people have to understand is you're not getting into these groups to quote unquote sell mortgages. You hit the nail on the head with it by saying it's your interest. It's what your second passion is about. And then the mortgage is just because, we're good people and the good people always rise, it will just come out.
Yeah. So how the example that I used for my LO worked was he literally didn't even tell everybody that he was an LO. He didn't. He has it obviously on his Facebook, right? He kind of adds when people are starting to ask questions. He adds here or there. He got the first person that he messaged to the side, really. And then basically they closed on their mortgage, and they actually posted and said, hey, don't know if you know, but the guy who runs this is actually a loan officer, and he's actually fantastic, and here's what he did for me. And so he didn't even brag about himself. It wasn't like that. It was the guy that he actually helped, and it was unsolicited. That was kind of the cool thing, right? Like, he didn't ask the guy to do it. The guy just did it.
Yeah, those are the best ones right there.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I did one time, and trust me, I wasn't trying to sell mortgages or anything. It's just, I sponsored one of my kids' baseball teams, and they won a championship at one of the tournaments. And, I still say my kids' team would beat JP Hussey's team, but that's a different story. But, we won a tournament, and I just said, so proud of these kids and so proud my company was able to sponsor them, and it was just boom. I got message after message on it. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, I even sometimes will post photos of my dog on my own personal Facebook, but then tag the Soka lending group, and it just reminds people. A lot of people know me as mortgage. Like, I've just been kind of doing that my entire adult life, which I know for new brokers, they don't have that, but it just reminds them. So anything that you can really do to make sure that you put your face in front of them multiple times, right? So it's a little bit different in a group and a little bit different on your own personal page. Kind of your messaging. I would encourage people to make sure that their messaging on their personal page isn't 100% only about mortgage, because then people turn you off. So it needs to be a good mix, and it really should be things that you really like to do. And then also, like, what pepper in there, what you're doing and how you're successful. Keep it very, very positive. I tell my LOs, that every day is the best day. It just is. I mean, people just want to hear positive things, from people. Leave politics off Facebook, because
Please.
that will alienate people. We don't post anything political at all. Anything that can be controversial, we try to just steer away. It really is kind of like life, mortgages, puppies for us.
That's a great tagline. You need a shirt made for that one.
I'm in. Let's do it.
All right.
Brokers are better store.
Oh God, yeah. We'll get with the team. Okay, so you're mainly or only Facebook for marketing?
So we've never bought a lead ever. Like, since City, I've never literally bought a lead. I would say a lot of what we do is Facebook. Obviously, we do a lot kind of in our community. I mean, especially in the LGBTQ communities in our major markets. Our two biggest markets are Houston, Texas, and Denver. We do have an office in Houston as well. So we will go and kind of do the normal stuff, right? Like, meet with the realtors. We hold little events when it's not COVID to be able to schmooze with them, invite their people, kind of thing. So we don't only do Facebook. I would just say during COVID, 90 something % of our business, and we had a really great 2020, came from Facebook. A lot of it was literally from people that I have no idea who they are, because I literally double clicked on them and messaged them and said, check your private messages.
That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, there's no overhead there. It just takes time, and it takes a little bit of effort. That's great. All right, so you have your marketing. You get many of your lead sources through Facebook. You're
Mm-hmm.
meeting people probably that you would never have met before without this social media platform. So now we got to start talking about your business model. You
Yeah.
know, what is your business model? Did you when you started this, you know, a year and a half ago ish, did you have something in mind and then it switched because of an opportunity, or did you know what you were going to go into right away?
I mean, I think I had a little bit of, well, a pretty good idea right away.
Hmm.
Don't forget, I've been doing this a long time. And then also, like, I did work for another brokerage. So I kind of got to see a little bit of what worked, what didn't work. I mean, I think for me, the business, a lot of it is through tech, right? So, like, we use Mortgage Coach, which looks really cool for putting out like rates, fees, comparisons, stuff like that. So it looks very professional. We have a Calendly system. We try to put everything on the calendar so we're not bombarded kind of throughout the day. Like, we put in a lot of tech in the beginning so that we could really streamline the process to make sure we didn't get overwhelmed. So I think that that's number one. I think number two is, and I've said this before, I believe that brokers are able to give a bigger amount of products to the customer. And I think that that's really just one thing that I hope that more brokers are able to do, is add things like non-QM loans, learn about them, add them to the repertoire. It's not gonna be for everybody, but at least you have a solution. The banks don't have that. So asset depletion, there's a lot of different products that I think are very important to put into the product set. And that's really something that, even if you don't do them, you can say that you have a lot of different things up your sleeve, and they're not going to work for everybody, but a normal conventional one also isn't just going to work for everybody. So I think that it's important to kind of diversify. I also think it's important to diversify between having more than just a few lenders. I understand the reason why people have their favorites. We have our favorites that we work the best with too. I get it. But I do think that it's important to be able to at least have other options in case there is something that's like a niche mortgage. And when you go and you look and you price it out, that you have other options that
Hmm.
might be a better fit. I mean, especially self-employed borrowers, right? Like, I think that there are some lenders that do that better than others. And so I think it's important that we're able to disseminate, where different things are best fit for. So again, we might not use all of our lenders that we have on our list all of the time, because we clearly have some that are just a little easier for us to work with. But I think it's important that we have them and that we're able to offer those to our customers as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, this kind of what I tell people, you know, first off, I'm always promoting the broker channel, as you, I think you know that. But at the same time, you know, I tell them, and at one time, it's just because of the way it happened. You know, at one time, I think I was representing like 16 different lenders at that time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I tell people that I represent 16 lenders, which means 16 different rates, which means 16 different possible products that we can get. I mean, we're going to be able to tailor this to you.
Yep. So one thing that I always talk about is the difference between a banker and a broker. I think it's really important, because most people just say, well, I'm going to go to my credit union kind of thing. So just being able to really differentiate and just literally say, hey, here is what a banker does. They have access to their rates, their fees, their products, etc. And maybe you walked into the right bank, maybe it was the right place, but there is a likelihood that it's not. And what we're able to do as a broker is associate ourselves with a lot of different lenders, banks, direct mortgage companies, people that you might not have access to just going on the internet and just shopping. And we're able to put together a package and be able to say, hey, I reviewed you at X number of lenders. I did the shopping. We use the word shopping. I did the shopping for you.
Mhm.
And here's what we came back with. And I think a lot of people are very excited to hear, that they got shopped around and that we were able to put together the best package for them. And I would say 9 times out of 10, if they did go to insert name a bank here and get some sort of a quote, like, we didn't just beat them, we crushed them.
That's great. Now, okay. Well, you brought up QM. Okay.
Yes.
Like, is that a majority of your business?
You mean non-QM?
I'm sorry. I apologize. Non-QM. Yep.
No, it is absolutely not a majority of our business. I would say it's probably less than 10%. It is a lot of paper, like actual pieces of paper, right? And so that can get a little laborious in terms of filling out pieces of paper. But it's what we found is kind of there's a lot more upfront work. They do like you fill out the paper, you're not under the TRID rules, right? So you have a little bit more flexibility on some of the things that you can do, like in terms of the CD doesn't necessarily have to be out for 3 days before you can close. Like there's a lot of different things that you're able to do with bank statement loans and DSCR loans. It really opens you up to investors. That's what I found. A lot of investors love the fact that they could possibly get something to where their DTI is not necessarily looked at with a DSCR loan. They love the fact that some lenders are able to do those interest only. So when you talk about cash flowing a property, that's a big thing. Like they want to put 25, 30% down because they actually have cash to put down. They don't want it to be hard. They're fine with an interest rate that's like 5 or 6% as long as it's interest only, because what they're really looking for are two things. Number one is the property actually cash flowing? And when you look at only paying interest, yes, you're not paying down the principal, but you're also cash flowing property, which was their original goal. But number two is a lot of them are in these markets. I mean, I tailor a lot to the metropolitan markets. A lot of them are in the markets where inflation is, I mean, it's the word of 2021 so far. I keep getting these articles. I think it's going to continue 2021, 2022. But also just people are doing appraisal gap after appraisal gap. Like prices right now are rising. They want to get in on some of that equity. There's an equity play there. So they're going in, buying some of these rentals, doing interest only so that they can hope to get in on that equity play as well.
Well, for someone who only does about 10% of them, you know quite a bit about them.
we have to make sure we know what we're talking about when we talk to investors, because they're very savvy and they ask some questions. So
Yeah, no, and the thing about it is, we all have our little boxes that we have, and we want to stay in there and dominate in that, but let's just be honest here. In order to serve the greater community, we got to step outside. And I don't think we can be scared to do that. As long as, whenever I do a product that I'm not too familiar with, I let the client know, listen, and I don't devalue myself at all. I just let them know I have it available. It's just it's not my niche, but you know what? I'm going to go through it for you. Bear with me. I'm going to get all the details and we'll make it work.
yeah, I agree. I mean, just dive right in is what I've said before. And I would just agree. I mean, your AEs, especially your non-QM AEs, they are there for you. They're a little less busy from what I've seen. So they're able to spend a little bit more time with you. And I've even had some that if I am a little nervous about explaining the product, they'll get on the phone with me and just kind of let me do the presentation and then chime in anything that I don't know about their specific product. Like they'll sit on the phone with me and kind of listen in and do it with the customer. So I think that's a little bit of a difference in how to use the AE on non-QM and QM products.
No, that's a great point. I mean, they're almost like their own little underwriters.
Exactly.
Within reason. They really are. So, okay. So you have your little 10% non-QM. What would you attribute your other 90% ish of the business? Is it conventional FHA? Where do you go with it?
Yeah, so the majority of what we do is conventional, and it's from realtors, right? It's realtor referrals. I don't know these realtors. I want to say that one more time. Like I meet them through Facebook and I message them to the side, and then like we just kind of strike a conversation about things, and then they just start sending us people, and then we've just gotten referrals from people that we did because we met this realtor. They tell the people within their own real estate brokerage that they had a good experience with us. Like I literally did one non-QM loan for a Keller Williams agent in Austin, and all of a sudden, like he told another one. I didn't end up doing a non-QM loan for the other agent, but he sent me 2 conventional referrals. So just because I had a different product set, I didn't even do the loan for the other person, but just because I was a little bit different and then we hit it off on the phone, I have now another realtor at the exact same place, and I've been to Austin, Texas exactly one time in my life, like 5 years ago. So it really is just kind of connection through Facebook, et cetera. But yes, we do a majority of conventional loans, W-2. I mean, I think that we're able to just find them really kind of through the Facebook channel, just from directly reaching out to realtors on Facebook.
Still blows my mind that you have a set of realtors that you've never met and you just met them through Facebook. But
I would say almost all my realtors I've never met.
oh my God, that's pretty amazing. But once again, goes back to what I said in the extreme beginning here, which is there's 1,000 right ways to do this. You know what I mean? And you found your niche and you went with it.
Yeah. So there's one other niche that I didn't even bring up that I just thought of too. So my husband and I, we own Airbnb properties. And so I've joined Facebook groups about Airbnb. And so I just kind of, like I said, it's not mortgage, right? I just kind of add content there about like laws, because there's a lot of things about laws, about just general, like how do you kind of thing. And we've met a lot of people that want to basically do Airbnb, like, and they want to get another investment house, etc. Some of them are able to do it through QM. Some of them are able to do it through non-QM, but it's kind of cool to have the non-QM product to discuss with them, to give them options, and then figure out whether they're QM or non-QM, but it works really well. And then just literally last week, I got invited. It was a title company here in Denver, but they were sponsoring a CE class for realtors that was Airbnb 101. And they found me because I do business with the title company, but they know that I know about Airbnb. So they literally for free let me on as the sponsor, like the lender sponsor. And I got time in front of 83 realtors that I don't know, that were from this title company, basically, to where I got to talk about my experience with Airbnb. Oh, hey, by the way, I also got 3 minutes where I got to promote my business. And this week alone, I now have 5 appointments with realtors that I, again, just don't know who they are. But it was because of Airbnb, them knowing that, me getting on this thing, and then basically promoting the business on the title company's continuing education thing that they did for the realtors.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, but it's great. It's good to hear you put yourself out there. You know, and the other thing that's hitting home with me with everything that you're saying is you're a real person. You know what I mean? And you show that you care about people, and I think that's why people, you know, once they understand, that's why they gravitate towards mortgage brokers more.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, like I said, you can't just be mortgage, 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 mortgage. You need to be a real person. You need to connect with them. You need to show them that you have a life, etc., that you understand these things. And I think people want to work with people that will get them.
100%.
They're not going to feel ostracized if they bring something up like, oh, I have bad credit, or oh, I have this going on, or I have this marital issue, or something like that. Like, cool, you know, that's normal, right?
Life.
And I'm a
Yeah.
normal guy, so, you know, I get it, kind of thing is I think what you need to present on social media.
Perfect. All right. So Mike, you've given us a ton of great content here, a ton of great things to think about. A lot of great advice here. So to kind of close this all out, I've been asking this a ton. Question of the week, but it's the same question every time. What advice would you like to maybe give to our community, or if it's someone new coming up? I mean, I'll probably tailor this a little bit more to you if you can. For someone new, kind of just in the business, we'll say less than 2-3 years in the broker business. Now, I know you've had a ton of experience before, but even if it's somebody, what advice would you give them? What's your words of wisdom to them?
So number one is, I know that a lot of people are grappling with, do I work for a brokerage or do I start my own broker shop? Okay. And I've actually gotten some messages from the Brokers Are Better community, asking, hey, how did you, right? Like, how did you do it? How were you successful in being able to do it? And I'm happy fielding those questions. I just want to make sure that kind of my general advice is, do it if and when you're ready. Don't rush it, right? So if you're still learning, if you still need to learn a little bit more about how does comp work, if you need to learn about how do you pay processors, do you do contract processing, not, what's your tech stack, like all of those things, I think are homework that people should do, know how expensive things are or are not, what things work together, et cetera, before just kind of spinning off, opening up their own brokerage and just kind of going off, right? Like, I think it's doable. I think it really is a great opportunity for everybody in our space to like have the opportunity if they would like to do it. But I would caution you to do it when you're ready. I think having a strong partner to do it with is important, especially if you're very sales focused. Make sure that you have somebody that's very compliance and or processing minutia kind of paperwork that you do it with. Otherwise, it's going to quickly become a lot, especially with all the needs for licensing and compliance, et cetera. So I would really say, if this is a path that you want to do, it is totally doable. This is one of the best opportunities I think that is out there, but don't rush it if you're not ready to do it.
I cannot believe you're saying this right now, because I was literally just having a conversation with a broker a couple days ago. I'm not going to name names, but talking about how, yes, we always tell people, how it's great to be a broker, right? And it truly is. Like, I absolutely love it, but I was ready. I was ready to make that jump, and you can't rush it, because what's going to happen if you rush it, then there's a black mark on the broker community, in terms of maybe they weren't in compliance, maybe they didn't understand laws, rules, how to run a business,
Mm-hmm.
And it does more harm than good. So I think, Mike, I don't know if you were in that conversation that I had the other day, but at the end of the day, no, that's everything we were trying to hit on. Is just we got to make sure that it's not just, oh, I want to become a broker, but you're ready. You're willing, as you said, your tech stack, everything, your compliance. So that's perfect.
Yeah, I doubt it was the same broker, but I was having a similar conversation as well last week, and he basically started and honestly failed, right? Because he wasn't ready, and he actually hired LOs kind of right out of the gate when he himself wasn't even ready as a broker owner. So he basically had to hit the reset button, be a broker owner where he was his own person, self-processing LO, hit the reset button. Oh, I already said that. Hit the reset button, make sure that they had everything in order, and then basically started fresh. And he, I think, actually redid his name. He has a new DBA name because he messed up. He just jumped in too fast. So make sure that you're ready, and it's tough to know if and when you're ready, right? But I think that there are certain things that you can make sure of that are important, like what are your processing, like what's your process, first of all, what's your tech stack, but also like if you were to add people, how do they tap into that, right? So like if you were to get another LO and you need to assign them to either a processor or a contract processor, like, but you also need to track them and you need to do a lot of the reports and those, like, what's your process to do that? Is it written down, right? Like if you were to add somebody, like how would they actually know what to do? So make sure that you write all these steps down. An employee handbook sounds cliche, but I think it's really important to make sure you don't just download one from the interwebs. Make it tailored to you and to your actual business with process written down.
That's great advice. Mike, thank you so much for just taking the time out of your day to do this. I know we're all extremely busy right now, but you gave a ton of good insight, ton of information that our community can take with them. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Mark.
No problem. So everyone, thanks for joining us today. Brokers, if you want to get caught up on all of our podcast episodes, please head over to aimgroup.com/broker to broker. All of our podcasts are there, even our phenomenal kickoff season 1. So, but you can listen to all the broker to broker podcast episodes on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else where you can download podcasts. So also, please do me a favor. Please rate our podcast and leave a review. It helps us get the podcast out there and spreads the word that brokers are better. So once again, Mike, thank you. Hope you have a great 2021. I know you're going to. And everyone else, we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.